Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the March 19th, 2024 meeting of the Carrboro Town Council. Good to see everyone out tonight, and we will start this meeting as we do always with a lovely poetry reading from, I believe I saw our Carrboro Poet Laureate. There she is. Liza, come on up.
Hello, Council. Hello, everybody here. Wonderful to see you. I've got a springish poem today of mine. It's called Growing a New Garden. Under bramble and thorn, behind dried weed bouquets, the pomegranate tree birthed a fruit of red arils and pulp. The puckered rinds dangle over dirt yet to be tilled. That alive red of seasons and sumptuous drool hides beneath dusty shells. A garden does not always know what it needs. These fruits, these flowers of earth's dirt, trust sun to shine, instruct seeds to genuflect to rain. But not all can be left to a tug of war between light and moisture. What about the sacred touch of hands, shape of sound from songs and praises? The pomegranates have split open. Our grandmothers have given us instructions for planting ourselves. We must hold hands long enough to listen to their wrinkled secrets. Grow us past yesterday. Together, hands and earth mold each other. Girls and boys lift their chins, hold worms between their forefingers and thumbs, suspend them over each other's mouths, dare to feed them to the babies. Let us wait for our answers about the seeds we have gathered. Hear them grow, the slight pop as they sprout. I can smell wet soil under your fingernails. I scratch my neck, leave dirt streaks across it like prayers. We must gather the pomegranates before they rot and feed them to each other one piece at a time, dyeing our tongues royal crimson. There will be no rules against us in this garden we make, in this garden making us. No walls to hide us away as we bloom to the unwilled sowing of our bodies. This garden will stretch out beyond its plot of land, extend the earth one block at a time, until rose petals and blackberry vines crack the cement. Our breasts reveal the secret longings of our grateful bones, and our hips plan for their harvest. Birds have come for the pomegranate's fallen red arils, the patient drip of syrup. Wind warns us to whisper and listen, even when the children of rival lands come through this long-lost Eden. They pucker their cheeks to blow dandelion seeds, and there is laughter. Their mothers and fathers and I will pull their dandelion weeds when they emerge, chase after the children with bundles of small yellow flowers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Happy spring.
Yes, welcome spring. Always awesome. Thank you, Liza. Good evening. We have a series of resolutions and proclamations this evening. I am going to start it off with a resolution for participation in Earth Hour, March 23rd, 2024. Whereas 8:30 p.m. on March 23rd, 2024 has been designated as Earth Hour by the World Wildlife Fund as a reminder that through collective action, individuals can make a positive impact in the fight against climate change. And whereas Earth Hour 2024 aims to be a moment of unity that shines a spotlight on nature loss and the climate crisis and inspires millions more to act and advocate for urgent change. And whereas Earth Hour engages supporters in more than 190 countries and territories annually, making it one of the largest grassroots environmental movements in the world. And whereas Earth Hour involves two simple actions, turning off lights for 1 hour and giving an hour for Earth by spending 60 minutes doing something positive for our planet. And whereas Carrboro has recognized Earth Hour for the past 13 years and is committed to reducing greenhouse emissions. And whereas Carrboro made its first commitment to climate protection in 2001 through joining the Cities for Climate Protection and conducted its first greenhouse gas emissions inventory in 2005. And whereas the Town Council adopted a climate protection resolution in December 2009, accepted the Energy and Climate Protection Plan in 2014, and accepted the Community Climate Action Plan in 2017. And whereas cities and states across the country and around the world are joining with Carrboro to demonstrate a commitment to addressing climate action by supporting Earth Hour. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Carrboro Town Council that the Town Council hereby proclaims March 23rd, 2024, from 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. as Earth Hour in Carrboro, and calls upon all residents and businesses of Carrboro to join in supporting the aims and the goals of this effort. Be it further resolved that the Carrboro Town Council directs staff to send out a public service announcement to publicize Earth Hour. Be it further resolved that the lights in front of Town Hall will be turned off March 23rd, 2024, from 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. in recognition of Earth Hour, this the 19th day of March 2024. I don't think we have a staff member here to accept the resolution, which is fine, but I will ask for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Moved and properly seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Council?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Supporting Earth Hour for another year. In this order, I will call up Councilmember Posada to present a resolution, and right behind him will be Mayor Pro Tem Now for the next resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and colleagues. Good evening. Before I read the resolution, I would like to, Madam Mayor, with your permission, invite a couple of guests here this evening that will receive the resolution. First is former Representative Ricky Hurtado, who's currently the chair of Governor Cooper's Advisory Council for Hispanic and Latino Affairs. With your permission, I would invite him up.
Yes, come on. Come on down, Mr. Hurtado. You're the next contestant. Oh, wrong show.
Come on in. And also, while I believe, she is here. Also, Cristina España, who is the Deputy Director for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion of the office, in the Office of Governor Cooper.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the resolution is as follows. A resolution in support of immigrant communities in Carrboro. Whereas the town of Carrboro recognizes the vital role immigrants have played and continue to play in the growth, diversity, and prosperity of our community. And whereas our town upholds the values of inclusivity, equity, and justice as cornerstones of our democracy. And whereas the town of Carrboro is a welcoming community that prides itself in being a place for everyone. And whereas the collaboration between immigrant communities and law enforcement is essential for the safety and well-being of all of our residents. And whereas equitable access to municipal services, education, and opportunities for civic engagement for all residents, regardless of immigration status, is essential to the fabric of our town. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the Town of Carrboro that the Council commits to fostering a welcoming environment to all immigrants living in, working in, and contributing to our town, advocates for policies at the state and federal level that provide a clear path to citizenship for undocumented residents and protects the rights of refugees and asylees, supports local initiatives that provides all residents with access to municipal services, including education and law enforcement protection, regardless of immigration status, empowers and encourages law enforcement officials to intentionally foster trust and cooperation with our diverse immigrant communities, and encourages our community to engage in a dialogue and cultural exchange to bolster mutual understanding and respect among all residents of Carrboro. This, the 19th day of March of the year 2024. Council members, I move the resolution and humbly ask for a second.
All right, it's been moved and properly seconded. Council, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Councilmember Posada.
Thank you, colleagues. Before I invite and pass over the mic to my dear friend Ricky Hurtado, I want to just thank this council for the many years of supporting immigrants in our community. We know that rhetoric and everything going on in our country and in our state has shown that our immigrant communities are vulnerable. And I am proud to stand with a council that continues to show that Carrboro is welcoming to all of our communities.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilmember Eleazar Posada, and to the entire town of Carrboro. This may seem like a straightforward, simple resolution, but in these times it's incredibly powerful and important to restate language matters. And right now we are in a moment where just this week immigrants were dehumanized quite literally when our so-called leaders use them as political pawns. And so you can already sense across North Carolina and even in the town of Carrboro, fear starting to creep in like we sensed years ago. And so I appreciate the leadership of this council and the community at large to continue to affirm this as a welcoming, inclusive place for everyone. And we continue to look at Carrboro to lead the way in places across North Carolina, especially right next door where I live. So thank you all so much. And if I can ever be of assistance on behalf of the advisory council and, of course, Cristina España, one of our fearless leaders, please don't hesitate to call on us because we're always happy to be collaborative partners. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you.
This is actually my first time at this podium, and I'm going to invite but not require Monica Romweber to join me. It's entirely up to you, Monica. And before I read this resolution honoring and celebrating the life of Carrboro's Dexter Romweber, I want to thank our former mayor, Damon Siles. I want to thank David Manconi, former Piedmont laureate and longtime iconic music journalist, and our local scribe, Kirk Ross, for the assistance in drafting this resolution. Whereas, on Friday, February 16th, the town of Carrboro and the music world at large suffered a grievous loss with the sudden and unexpected death of John Michael Dexter Romweber II, the youngest of the Romweber family's 7 children. Dexter was just 57 years old. And whereas, Dexter was 11 years old when the Romwebers moved to Carrboro in 1977. They were a musical family. Sister Sarah played drums in legendary bands Lights Active and Snatches of Pink, while brother Joe led the band UV Prom, so it was natural that Dexter was playing guitar by his teenage years. And whereas, young Dexter, playing on various local street corners, was a familiar sight back then, and his early bands included I Married a Monster, The Remains, and Crash Landon and the Kamikazes. But where he truly made his mark was with Flat Duo Jets, a hugely acclaimed band in the 1980s and 90s. And whereas, formed in 1983, Flat Duo Jets started out as a guitar-drums duo when that was a rarity. The Jets played roots rock faster, louder, and more intense than just about any other band on the planet. Dexter was a monster guitarist and a singer with a voice for the ages. White Stripes, Black Keys, and Cat Power were just a few of the popular acts who owe a big stylistic debt. And whereas, after Flat Duo Jets broke up, Dexter continued on as the Dex Romweber duo with a series of drummers, including Sister Sarah. Together they made glorious music. And whereas, for all the critical acclaim, Dexter never achieved mainstream commercial success. But he maintained his artistry with unimpeachable integrity. He made his home in Carrboro and was widely beloved here and elsewhere. And whereas the past 5 years have been tragic and difficult for the Romweber family, starting with Sister Sarah Romweber's death in 2019. Two brothers, Joe and Luke Romweber, subsequently passed within weeks of each other. And their mother, Sarah Romweber, the family matriarch, died in October 2023. And whereas Dexter's passing represents another sad chapter, but the music he made and the inspiration he provided will live on. He meant the world to his friends, loved ones, listeners, and the Carrboro community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Carrboro Town Council expresses its deep appreciation for Dexter Romweber's talent, commitment to the local music community, and towering legacy, as well as our sincerest condolences to the loved ones mourning his loss. Be it further resolved that the Carrboro Town Council directs town staff to develop a fitting public remembrance of Dexter, his sister Sarah, and the Romweber family, reflecting their lifelong work to bring music into community spaces where it could be shared with all their neighbors. Be it finally resolved that the Carrboro Town Council declares Friday, March 22nd, 2024 to be Dexter Romweber Day in Carrboro, and urges all residents to continue to celebrate the life and legacy of Dexter Romweber and his important contributions to the artistic life of North Carolina, the nation, and the world. This, the 19th day of March, 2024. So before I move this, just very quickly, there are literally 1,000 people within 10 miles of this room who have more of a Dexter Romweber story than I do. But before I ever set foot in Carrboro and before I ever played a show here or recorded any music, when I was just a kid, I was adopted by my stepfather, Jerry Nowell. A lot of people know. And when I met Jerry, I was like a military brat with a high and tight. I had like maybe only ever heard like a Jim Croce album. And my mom got divorced in the 90s. So also Alanis Morissette. But but when we were, when Jerry was kind of educating me on Orange County, we would drive out here. He was a grad student in political science, and he drove this orange MG, and he had very long hair, which I was very skeptical of. And he would play me these local records, and there were three that sat, in his passenger seat that I would move to get into the MG. There was Southern Culture on the Skids, Too Much Pork for Just One Fork. There was Tossing Seeds, 89 to 93 singles by Superchunk, and there was Introducing by Flat Duo Jets. And so I think it's literally true that the first time I ever drove into Carrboro, I was listening to Dexter Romweber. And, when you make art for as long as Dexter did, so tied to a community, and Sarah too. Art gives back to all of us all the time, but when you are so tied up in a place and a people, you are really sort of renewing the source. And that's what Dexter meant to a lot of people here. And so thank you, Monica, for being here. You're certainly welcome to say a couple words. But yeah, we're just so grateful. I would like to move the resolution.
All right, it's been moved and properly seconded. Council members, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Of course not. Motion carries. Is Wendy Smith here? Wendy Smith, there she is. Miss Art Center, what's up? How are you? Yeah, just 50, right? So I do, myself and the council, of course, we do want to take the opportunity to acknowledge the 50th year anniversary for the Art Center, which is actually in August. But they kicked off the year-long celebration at their gala just this past Saturday night. So I wanted to offer up a bit more history about the Art Center. The Art Center started as a one-room classroom in the building next to Armadillo Grill with 17 students studying drawing and painting. Within 5 years, 300 students were enrolled, and the art school expanded into adjacent buildings. But soon this space was too small, and they moved to the recently redeveloped Carmel Mall and became the Art Center. The next 7 years saw rapid growth, and in 1985, through a $1 million capital campaign, they renovated the old Piggly Wiggly grocery store at 300 East Main for their new home. This space served the Art Center well for many years. However, the building eventually showed signs of age. In order to grow their mission by providing accessible spaces upfitted with modern equipment, they made the decision to renovate an existing building just a block from their old home. 400 Roberson Street provides accessible and ample space with the infrastructure to introduce cutting-edge makerspace technologies to our traditional arts programs. With 18,000 square feet of transformable space, the new Art Center offers spaces that are both purpose-built and flexible. This new home includes 3 distinct maker spaces, a STEAM, which stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Mathematics lab, a digital lab, and a fiber arts lab, as well as a ceramic studio, painting studio, black box theater, and writing studio. The Art Center seeks to create maker spaces and classrooms that are relevant, inclusive, and create a sense of belonging to all in our communities. Through access to these spaces, traditionally underrepresented makers will find new opportunities for economic growth and work skill development. Users will benefit greatly from the rich and collaborative culture created by those sharing the space. Makers from diverse backgrounds, including ethnicity, gender, class, sexual orientation, and interest. Congratulations to the Art Center on 50 years hanging out in Carrboro. Y'all better do it. Congratulations.
I don't think I can add too much to that, but I mean, the truth is you don't grow from a 1 classroom art school into a 18,000 square foot facility on your own. It's all about Carrboro and the surrounding areas. And we did it all within 1 block of downtown, which is pretty cool. So from our new home, you can see our whole history. I invite you guys all to come check it out. It's pretty cool. So
Thank you so much. Thank you. I think she wants to. Oh, glasses. The glare.
I'm waiting for the slide to change to the town of Carrboro.
Oh, we changed.
There you go.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Maggie, Sweet Maggie Funkhauser, Carrboro Farmers Market Week. Good to see you, Maggie. Proclamation for Carrboro Farmers Market Week, April 1st through the 7th, 2024. Whereas the mission of the Carrboro's Farmers Market is to create and sustain vibrant and innovative market that supports local farmers and artisans while extending the benefits of local food to the greater community. And whereas the Carrboro Farmers Market is locally grown, nationally known, and one of the oldest and most well-established producers only farmers markets in North Carolina, with everything grown and produced by the market's farmers and artisans. And whereas the Carrboro Farmers Market serves over 80 local farmers and small business owners by creating direct-to-consumer sales opportunities and serving as a business incubator. And whereas the Carrboro Farmers Market is an important community gathering space in Carrboro, hosting an estimated 2,500 to 3,500 visitors per week during the main season and an estimated 150,000 visitors annually from Carrboro and surrounding communities. And whereas the Carrboro Farmers Market is a leader in food access efforts at farmers markets in North Carolina with a robust Double Bucks program that provides a dollar-for-dollar match to shoppers using nutrition benefits programs like SNAP, EBT, and North Carolina Farmers Market Nutrition Program. And whereas the Carrboro Farmers Market provides educational and engaging programming, including special events, kids' activities, chef demos, and more that aim to connect producers and consumers and create a strong local food ethic. And whereas the Carrboro Farmers Market operates year-round and begins its main season in April with extended hours on Saturday mornings and a midweek market on Wednesday afternoons. And whereas the Carrboro Farmers Market was founded in 1979 and celebrates its 45th anniversary this year. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Barbara M. Foushee, Mayor of the town of Carrboro, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim April 1st through the 7th, 2024 as Carrboro Farmers Market Week. This, the 19th day of March, 2024. And our good friend Maggie, market manager, is hanging out over here, ready to say something. Come on, let's do it.
I got some things to say.
Yes, yes, here's the problem.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. Y'all hear me okay? Okay. Evening, everyone. I'm Maggie Funkhauser. I'm the manager of the Carrboro Farmers Market, and I've been lucky enough to be on staff since 2019. I'm joined tonight by our board president, Patrick Mulkey, who's a longstanding member of our market and who, like many of our farmers, has committed countless hours to its success. We want to thank you, Madam Mayor, and all of our wonderful town council members for your service to our community, as well as your support of the farmers market. I wanted to take this opportunity on the occasion of our 45th anniversary to give you a little history and impact of the market. We're one of North Carolina's oldest and most well-established producers-only farmers markets, meaning that all the products are grown and produced by the businesses at the market. The market originated in the late 1970s, and what a lot of folks don't know is it was when a project was under development by a graduate student at the UNC Chapel Hill School of Public Health, which was called the North Carolina Agricultural Marketing Project. The project's goal was to provide an outlet for local farmers to sell produce on a regular basis while providing townspeople greater access to high-quality fresh produce. We were initially conceived of as a public health space, and we continue our relationship with the School of Public Health and work with graduate students, undergrads, professors, and more to learn about making farmers markets accessible and vibrant community spaces. Our market, was one of the first farmers markets in North Carolina to accept SNAP EBT. We also accept NC Farmers Market Nutrition Program benefits, which are distributed seasonally to WIC participants and seniors who qualify. And we provide double bucks, an unlimited dollar-for-dollar match to spend at the farmers market. Last year, we saw about $30,000 in SNAP benefits spent at the farmers market, with an additional $60,000+ in double bucks spent. We have the largest double bucks program in the Triangle, which is something we're truly proud of. Additionally, we offer a wide range of community programming, like free kids activities during our Wednesday market, educational events to engage the public on farm products like tomatoes and strawberries, collaborations with local businesses, and more. On Tomato Day, we draw a record number of shoppers to the market and to Carrboro. We're so excited to kick off another main season in April. And I just want to thank you all for your partnership and for your support for 45 years. Here's for 45 more. Let's open it up.
It's good.
Thank you, Maggie.
I appreciate it.
I believe I see Miss Valentine. There she is, Rachel Valentine, Executive Director, Orange County Rape Crisis Center. Welcome. Proclamation, Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Whereas sexual violence is common, over half of women and almost 1/3 of men in the United States have experienced sexual violence involving physical contact in their lifetimes. And whereas sexual violence starts early, more than half of female rape survivors and more than 40% of male rape survivors reported that they were raped when they were minors. And whereas sexual violence disproportionately affects some groups, women and racial and ethnic minority groups, trans and gender non-conforming people, people with disabilities, and children experience a higher burden of sexual violence. And whereas sexual violence is costly, rape is the most costly crime to its survivors, totaling over $3 trillion in lifetime societal costs. Considering such factors as medical costs, lost work productivity, pain and suffering, and lost quality of life. And whereas in 2001, the National Sexual Violence Resource Center organized the first nationwide Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and in 2009, President Barack Obama became the first president to proclaim April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And whereas the Orange County Rape Crisis Center, a nonprofit agency that has served this community since 1974, is working to stop sexual violence and its impact through support, education, and advocacy. And whereas the Orange County Rape Crisis Center assisted more than 950 survivors of sexual violence, their loved ones, and community professionals in 2023 to ensure no survivor faces their trauma or healing alone. And whereas the Orange County Rape Crisis Center works with the county's 2 school systems and other groups to provide students with age-appropriate information about violence prevention, reaching more than 15,500 youth and adults each year. And whereas the Orange County Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault Response Committee brings together members of law enforcement, the medical community, the legal system, and community advocates to improve services for survivors of sexual assault who come forward. And whereas victim blaming continues to be an enormous problem in instances of rape and sexual assault, and now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Barbara M. Foushee, Mayor of the town of Carrboro, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2024 to be Sexual Assault Awareness Month in Carrboro. I encourage all residents to speak out against sexual violence and to support the local community's efforts to prevent and respond to these crimes. This, the 19th day of March, 2024. Miss Valentine.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you to the council, and thank you to the community members that have made Orange County and Carrboro in particular a leader statewide and nationally in prevention. As difficult as it is to confront the violence and the trauma that people experience, what brings us hope is knowing that prevention is possible, and that this community is at the forefront of the fight for prevention. And much of that has to do with everyday individuals talking about it and confronting it where they stand. So thank you for your support over the last 50 years, and thank you to the council.
See you in Durham Academy.
If I could get Jordan Ayers to join me at the microphone from Fleet Feet. How you doing? Proclamation, Fleet Feet Day, March 19th, 2024. Whereas Fleet Feet first opened its doors to the Carrboro community on March 19th, 1994, and whereas Fleet Feet has provided 30 years of service and support to the Carrboro community and surrounding areas through expert shoe fitting, product knowledge, and community-based events and runs. And whereas Fleet Feet employs over 30 people dedicated to delivering on expert customer service, high-quality products, and genuine knowledge and care towards their customers. And whereas Fleet Feet established their training programs in 2008 to support, train, and encourage runners and walkers of all abilities to accomplish their goals, and has grown the programming to support over 1,000 runners and walkers each year. And whereas Fleet Feet supports local nonprofit organizations, schools, and other businesses with in-kind and financial support to encourage all to run, walk, and move together. And whereas Fleet Feet hosts run and walk events and community races throughout the year to grow community and encourage folks to get moving. And whereas the Fleet Feet National Headquarters opened in Carrboro in 2001. and now employs over 100 individuals who support more than 260 Fleet Feet stores in 40 states across the country. Now, therefore, I, Barbara M. Fouché, Mayor of the town of Carrboro in North Carolina, do hereby proclaim Tuesday, March 19, 2024, I've been up here too long, as Fleet Feet Day in Carrboro to honor the 30 years of service to the people of Carrboro and to recognize their contributions to our community this, the 19th day of March 2024. And thank you, Fleet Feet, for these 2 pair of shoes I just bought the other day.
Thank you, everyone. I am honored to be here as a representative of Fleet Feet. I am just the most recent leader of this wonderful business. I also have with me Chris, the original owner of the Carrboro location 30 years ago. But again, we couldn't be here without your support, so I want to say thank you. Again, it's a privilege for us to serve this community and continue to help people have healthy feet and happy lives. So thank you.
Thank you.
Do we show our shoes?
Thank you so much, Stuart.
Most resolution.
I'll let them go. Thank you so much. Maybe I'll take care.
Go.
So we are at announcement of upcoming meetings, and before we get that information, I just wanted to really shout out and give appreciation to Wendy Welsh. I do believe this will be her last council meeting with us as the town clerk. And I personally want to say how much I appreciate how you stepped in when I was sworn in. You were right there for me and just made sure I had everything that I needed, and right up until today. You've been amazing. Grateful you're going to stay with the organization. And, we'll hold on to you until, Friday?
That's right.
Yeah, our new town clerk, Mr. Lamar Joyner, will be with us, I think, starting on Monday. But I just wanted to say how very much you are appreciated. And I don't know if council members want to say anything. I don't want to cry. Anybody else?
I want to thank you, Wendy, because I know how hard it was to come in as an intern and then work with Wes. And then when Wes had to depart, you needed to shoulder it all. And you did so without missing a beat. I want to underscore how you paid attention to details that other folks might not have even thought about, right down to hole punching my agenda packet. But seriously, I think that I don't know how we would have made that transition without you, so thank you so very much.
Andy, I'm so pleased that you're going to be turning. Sorry?
Go ahead, you're good.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Wendy, I'm so glad that you're going to be turning your considerable talents to our grants, because we need your help there. And I know you're going to be amazing and keep wrangling all of the data and all of the people that need to be wrangled, as you always have. So thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Wendy, huge appreciation for all the work that you've done, how you've shown up, how you've taken on this role and given your heart to it. I have nothing bad to say about Wesley, amazing person, but I have this thing. I'm able to stay on top of things because of your just your support and your help. I'm excited that you're going to continue with the organization, just like my colleagues have said. But I just wanted you to know that from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for your leadership, for your hard work, and for your dedication to this town.
Set it off. Woo! She rocks.
So much. I appreciate it.
So I guess actually now we'll get to the announcement of upcoming meetings.
Ma'am. Good evening, Mayor and council members. A few meetings that we have coming up. We'll start with tomorrow on Wednesday, March 20th. The Truth Plaque Task Force will be meeting at 6 p.m. at Town Hall. The Affordable Housing Advisory Commission will be meeting at 7 p.m. at Town Hall. On Thursday, March 21st, the Transportation Advisory Board and the Safe Routes to School Committee meeting will be meeting from 6 to 8 p.m. virtually. Friday, March 22nd, Council will be meeting with El Centro Hispano at 11:30 at Town Hall. On Monday, March 25th, the Human Services Advisory Commission will have a hearing at 6 to 8:45, and that'll be virtually. And that'll take us to, we have a week off due to Easter and the last week of March, but our next town council meeting will be Tuesday, April 9th.
I got one more meeting, an event a week from Wednesday morning on Wednesday, March 27th at 9 a.m. On the soon-to-be former Carr Street in front of Arete Studio. We will be celebrating the renaming of Braxton Fouché Street. That's 9 a.m. In front of Arete Studio with the unofficial non-town sponsored roast of Braxton Fouché to follow.
Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. is the Orange County, Chapel Hill and Orange County Visitors Bureau meeting. And on the 28th is Chapel Hill Transit Partners meeting, which is virtual. And I think we got Braxton's and we got the El Centro. So, yeah, that's it.
And I just have one more event that'll kick off from here. I believe the Crop Walk is also Sunday, and it starts at 2:00. Town Manager Parker. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not true. Public comment. I apologize. And before I have one person signed up, before we get into the public comment, just a reminder about the 3-minute time frame in which you have to speak. Please address your comments to the entire council. Any follow-up questions should be sent to Town Manager Parker, and please be prepared to wrap your comments up right at 3 minutes to keep things moving along. Thank you. I have signed up as Gretchen Gockenauer, and I hope I said it right this time. Welcome, Gretchen.
Keeping up with the theme here of a video and a song, okay?
Thank you.
All right. So this is a forest path. This is summer, and we'll show the video at the end if it's okay. Okay. So we're traveling north to the pines of Bowlin Forest, ending at the Blue Ridge Road. It's a bird's eye view. So how could we be so lucky to have this public gifted to the town land of urban forests since 1976? So, but it's hard to capture on the video. The slopes, the rocks, the reality of geology, the flood maps, the natural springs, the elevation. 528 at the Uphill Pathway Drive, 402 at the creek bed. So, storm water. The homeowner's responsibility, you say, but wait, we've got roofs and roads and sidewalks and culverts, developers, and runoff from the uphill neighbor to the downhill neighbor. So let's take a walk on the pathway walking trails. And thank you very much, and enjoy the drone video. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Gretchen. So that's who I have signed up tonight for public comment. Town Manager Parker, the consent agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and good evening, council members. The first item on the consent agenda is approval of minutes from meetings from Town Council work session held on March 14th, 2023, Town Council meetings held on March 21st and 28th of 2023, and legislative breakfast meeting held on March 24th, 2023. The 7 following items are for council to make appointments or reappointments to the town's various boards, commissions, or committees. All reappointments do not include any new appointments. The first one is appointment to the Board of Adjustment. The next is reappointments to the Planning Board. Following that is appointment to the Stormwater Advisory Commission. Next is reappointment to the Affordable Housing Advisory Commission. Following that is reappointment to the Transportation Advisory Board. Next is appointments to the Economic Sustainability Commission. And next is reappointments to the Arts Committee. The following item is a request to set legislative public hearing for text amendments. This is to request the Town Council consider setting a public hearing on text amendments to the land use ordinance relating to cafes and residential density in certain zoning districts. A resolution setting a public hearing for April 23rd, 2024 has been provided. The final consent item is a report on the update of the status of the American Rescue Plan Act funds. This is for the agenda item is to give council an update on the status of ARPA funds distributed, which amount to $6.75 million to the town from the federal government.
Thank you, Town Manager Parker. Mayor Pro Tem now.
I would like to pull item number 3 so that we can excuse Mayor Fouché. And I would otherwise like to move items 1, 2, and 4 through 9, 10.
Second. I'll second that. Sorry.
So it has been moved and properly seconded for 1, 2, everything else, except for number 3. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Mayor Pro Tem now.
I'd like to move that we excuse Mayor Fouché from consideration of item number 3 concerning Braxton Fouché's reappointment to the Planning Board.
Seconded.
Yeah, I thought I was quicker than that. First I had to loom over that microphone, and now I had to face the buzzer.
I don't even see where it is. Apologies.
Good now.
Not accepted. Anyway, just to reiterate my motion to excuse Mayor Fouché from item number 3, considering Braxton Fouché and other Planning Board members' reappointments.
Repeat my second.
So, having moved it and having it seconded, all in favor, please say aye for the excusal.
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. And so then I would like to go ahead and move item number 3, reappointments to the Planning Board.
So moved.
Yeah, consider a motion. Thank you, Eleazar. And so I would need a second.
I'll second.
Moved by Councilmember Posada, seconded by Councilmember Merrill. Item number 3, reappointments to the Planning Board. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. I guess I move we de-excuse Mayor Fouché. I don't know if we need to do that. Is that no? Okay, we don't. She's back.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Now, and so we are on to other matters. Town Manager Parker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have an update on the Crisis Diversion Facility in Orange County. This item involves an update on the Crisis Diversion Facility plan for Orange County. Chief ATAC is here to introduce our presenters.
You got the phone, the badge, and the gun. Look at Chief. Go ahead. I see you. Yeah.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm going to do a quick introduction and then step out of the way for the experts. So this is Kate Fenhagen. She's the director of the Orange County's Criminal Justice Resource Division. And then Tony Marin-Pietri, who is in charge of the planning process and development process for the crisis diversion facility that is in process and planning here for Orange County. I'll just turn it over to them and get out of their way.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council members, for having us here tonight. I know you all were here at the Assembly of Government, not here, but in Chapel Hill for the Assembly of Governments meeting, so you did get a brief overview at that point. So we are going to go through some slides. Tony Marin-Pietri is the chair of the subcommittee, the Crisis Diversion Facility Subcommittee, and he has done work for the last 4 or 5 years that has been absolutely essential to this process, and he is a little under the weather, so I am doing a PowerPoint that he has largely created, but we have done this together so many times now that I hope we'll both be able to answer questions that you may have. So we're going to go quickly over some of these things because I think some of them will be a review, but just to be clear on the timeline here, this is a process that really did start way back in 2015 when the county commissioners passed a resolution called the Stepping Up Initiative, which many of you probably know about, to keep folks with behavioral health issues that don't need to be incarcerated in our detention center. And that really began a whole process. My department's creation came from that. And we have been moving to address how we see intercepts with people with behavioral health issues in our criminal legal system since then. One of the main things that really prioritized the crisis diversion facility as a need here for us was the sequential intercept mapping process. And that was stakeholders from all over the county gathering together to look at all of the intercepts that a person with behavioral health issues may have with the criminal legal system, starting from the moment of a law enforcement interaction or a 911 call all the way through reentry back into the community. One of the things that came from that countywide process that was facilitated by the Department of Health and Human Services was the recognition that we did not have a crisis diversion facility here in our county, and that was a desperate need if we were really going to try to divert people from our emergency department and from our law enforcement folks and from our jail system. So we have been working in earnest since then, since about 2019, to formulate these plans. It has taken a lot of work from a lot of people, a lot of guidance from a lot of experts. We are currently in the last couple years, it has been a lot of work specifically to look at site location, to look at what will actually be part of this facility, looking at who will staff it, et cetera. And then ultimately, the county commissioners have put some funding towards a design team that has worked for the last 2 years to look at the locations that might be appropriate for this facility. And as you know, a site is located in Hillsborough that we anticipate the county will be purchasing. They're in the process right now of doing so. But there is zoning and work that will have to take place over the next several months. We anticipate, just the latest information I got before I came over here from the county asset manager, is that they anticipate the purchase and the zoning to be completed and potentially the building to occur in July of 2025. So we're not there yet, but that's an optimistic, I hope, and reasonable date for us to get shovel ready and get that actually underway. And so just to go over, I think we went over quite a bit at the Assembly of Governments meeting, the need, why this is so important and why we don't have something that meets the need. But if you want to go into much greater detail, you can look at the sequential intercept map process that was done, the map that was created for Orange County and what our gaps are and what we have. We, of course, are a very rich county in terms of lots of resources, but we still are lacking some critical resources, and of course this is one of them. So I think one of the questions that often comes up is, well, don't we have a mobile crisis team? Don't we have an emergency room here? Don't we have Freedom House? And the answer is yes, we do have some things that work to divert folks from the criminal legal system with behavioral health issues, but these are the real identified gaps that we don't have and that a crisis diversion facility will fill. This is a no wrong door place. Anybody who walks up, whether they're coming from law enforcement, emergency services, or just choose to walk in the door, will be able to get served here unless they have a very significant medical issue that requires hospitalization. But right now, if you were to walk into Freedom House, for instance, for stabilization, for crisis stabilization, if you had any kind of a medical condition, you would be transferred to UNC. They just don't have that. They don't take involuntary commitments, which is a significant percentage of the folks that we see coming into our emergency room now, because that is the only location they can go, and they often sit in the waiting room of the psychiatric emergency room instead of actually getting served in the hospital itself. So we also want to be in the least restrictive setting, right? We don't want people in our detention center. That is not a mental health facility. It is a de facto mental health facility now. I mean, I can tell you, being there every day, a large percentage of the folks in our detention center have very significant behavioral health issues. And those people could be much better served, most of them, in a hospitalized setting. We don't have anywhere to take people when they come into our detention center and they need to be evaluated, whether it's a forensic evaluation, whether it's a competency evaluation. Those folks end up waiting in time in our detention center until they can get to an appropriate setting to get that evaluation, and this facility will have that. You can read about these other things, but this will be 24/7, 365 days a year. It will be open to everybody. It will be for our community, but if somebody is from another town and has a behavioral health crisis while they're here, this facility will serve them, of course. And the most important thing that I think this brings that we don't have and we absolutely need is it's a holistic center. It is not just looking at the behavioral health crisis, right? I mean, everybody that's going to come into this facility is also going to have peer support provided to them, and they're going to have a network of providers and resources that are going to connect them to what may be equally important, whether it's housing, whether it's social services, whatever it may be, that those resources that are from the county and from our advocates in the community will be present in this in this facility. Sorry, I shouldn't say hospital. So this effort has involved, as you know, sort of almost the entire community. We've presented in Carrboro before, all the municipalities. We've had behavioral health experts. We've had UNC health folks. As part of the process, all our law enforcement agencies, including Chief ATAC, have been extremely helpful to sort of determining the need and making sure that everyone is going to use this facility, that it will be well utilized, and that everyone agrees that this is something that is a need. I think it's also really important that we have had members of our court system who have also been advising us and giving us information. We've had, obviously, the electives. We've had emergency services who are very committed to wanting to bring people to a place like this, as opposed to the hospital, where they often have to sit and wait until people get admitted. This will be a very quick turnaround for law enforcement and for emergency services if they have to bring somebody. I'm going to go over this pretty quickly because this just sort of talks about all of the different processes that we went through, but then, the ultimate answer is the dedicated crisis diversion facility. And here, Exhibit C has a full list of all of the scope and functions of this facility, and you can go into great detail with all of that. But in summary, the things that I think are most important to know is that there will be two main components. There will be a behavioral health urgent care, we call it a BHUC. That will serve individuals 4 years and up, and that is for up to 23 hours for crisis stabilization, walk-in or brought in by emergency services or law enforcement. The facility-based crisis unit is the other major component, and that is a unit for adults 18 and above. who need more than that 23 hours, who need an additional up to 2 weeks or so to get ongoing care in order for them to be stabilized or in order to find another placement for them after that 2 weeks period. A peer living room is a central part of this facility. It will be manned by peers with lived experience, and it will be a way to help people navigate who may not necessarily be coming to the facility now. They may have a family member that they're interested in getting services for, but that peer living room will be a place where people can come during the day. I don't know if it'll be 24/7. I don't know if it'll be open overnight, but it'll certainly be open during the day. And it's a model that we've seen in other crisis diversion facilities that has really proven to be something very important to those folks with behavioral health issues to be find it supportive, but also educational as well. And then finally, a resource center, which is available to, of course, everybody in the community that may need help navigating this very complicated system, which I think will be simplified as a result of this facility. Orange County's plan is to own this building, to build it from the ground up. It's going to be the plans that may have to change a little bit depending on the new site that the county is now focused on, but it will be light, it will be welcoming, it will be modern, and it will be a place that I think people will be just a place that our community will just really be able to be proud of. Orange County will contract with providers who will provide the clinical and medical services. And again, as the holistic discharge planning is such a key component because everyone who leaves that facility for however long they're there, whether it's 2 hours, whether it's 2 weeks, will get the resources of a peer support specialist as well as all of the other services that are embedded in that facility to be able to hopefully provide them with a successful discharge plan. I think you know what the benefits of this facility are. We hope that it will reduce recidivism. We hope that it will provide better outcomes, healthier outcomes. It'll be wonderful for the court system to reduce the people that we're seeing coming in that really need to be treated in a medical facility or in a crisis facility as opposed to the courts. It really will help our law enforcement, which is why they've been so supportive of this, because right now they are the ones responding to those 911 calls where there's behavioral health and maybe a minor charge. And when they're at 2 o'clock in the morning and faced with an option, what do I do with this person? I can't leave them here. They're in crisis, but we don't have a mobile crisis team that's able to respond right away. Currently, that's something else we're working on. Where do we go? We can take them to the hospital, we can take them to the jail. That's the only place we know to safely take them. And often jail is the option because that's quicker. And also because they're going to be safe there right away and they can't walk away, like they could if they were going to the emergency room. So, we expect there'll be a reduction in law enforcement time, energy, and there will be substantially lower costs as a result of not having to use the emergency room for all of these cases and inpatient hospital services. And most importantly, though, I think we really will see the right response as opposed to the necessary response that we're having to engage in now to keep the community to respond to these 911 calls, which are, when we looked at the data and the 911 calls, it's an amazing number of calls that are based on underlying behavioral health or people who are unsheltered. It's, the minority of the calls are the serious criminal activities. So, and this is what this facility is designed for. And these are just some of the benefits you can see. 365 visits, is that still our current estimate of per month, could be diverted to this facility away from the emergency room based on the call data and the information we've been able to, I should say Tony has been able to go through very, very painstakingly. For law enforcement, it answers that question, divert to where? And it provides an alternative. Obviously, it reduces the burden for all of our law enforcement and EMS folks. And then for our criminal justice stakeholders, it's really been important to them when they get a case that comes into the detention center, they have a first appearance, a judge has to make a decision with a person who's in behavioral health crisis. They know this is not the right place for them. The court system is not right. They may not even have the capacity to proceed because of their behavioral health issues. And this gives them a way to divert that person to a facility where they can get an assessment, determine if this case should proceed or not. And then, of course, the hospitals will benefit greatly from this because they are, as you know, overburdened in the emergency room, particularly the psychiatric emergency room, and not able to serve all of the folks that are being currently there. So I think I mentioned where we are at this point. The initial plans have been done by the design team. They'll be refined based on the new site, but the county is in the process of due diligence with the site that's been selected in Hillsborough. It is very important that this facility be near an emergency room. So the Hillsborough Hospital ED is right within less than a mile from this site. And hopefully there will be construction starting in the summer of 2025. That is the estimate. But there will be a lot of fundraising that will go on, a capital campaign, but also a commitment by the county, of course, to provide very significant funding for something that I think they have determined already is critical to our community. And lots of other exhibits that you can go through if you really want lots of detail. So, and then we're here to answer any questions that you may have. And there is a website. I don't know that it has a lot more information than what you've received through here, but it will be updated as time goes on. So that's where we're at.
All right. Thank you so much for the presentation, Kate. Appreciate it. Council members, any questions for Kate? Councilmember Haven O'Donnell.
Yeah. First, I'd really like to thank you and Tony. This material is exquisite. We've waited a long time to see something that captures not only the understanding of the holistic problem, but addresses those wraparound services. So we have great faith in the diversion deflection model. And I really appreciated that you gave the resources at the end. I'm particularly taken with the sequential interface mapping. What an amazing tool. So I'm going to be eager to see how it unfolds as it actually hits the ground. I want to understand a little bit more about what happens after 2 weeks. What is there part two? just as a matter of.
Well, the first goal of the facility is to help a person get through crisis and then return them to the community so they can live in the community and get care on an outpatient basis. So the facility will help navigate to those outpatient services that are here, and the person can stay in the community and do that. For more acute cases, the facility will maintain an understanding of other facilities, other facility-based crisis, other inpatient, other treatment centers that are designed to do longer-term care. And if the person needs to do that, the expectation is they'll be transferred from this facility directly to that facility, and we'll be maintaining an inventory of the facilities and their capabilities and the relationship between this center and those, so that those transfers can occur efficiently. We don't expect to solve every crisis, be the end all, but to make that transition and make it smoothly and effectively is the goal.
So by 2025, 26, that the runway will be set for potential that second part of the outreach.
I mean, we've been in touch with different facilities to understand the difference between ours and theirs. I mean, that's going to be detailed operational planning, but that should be in place before the doors open and will mature as more experience is gained.
Exactly. And already there, I mean, like Central Regional Hospital in Butner is the statewide, our regional statewide mental health facility, and people can stay there for lengthy periods of time. It's going to be a very small number that's going to need anything beyond. I mean, it is when you have a holistic crisis diversion facility, most people within 2 weeks are able to be served. It may be a high level of outpatient care. It could be an outpatient involuntary commitment. It could be an ACT team, which provides wraparound supports. But we hope that most people will leave the facility back into the community with those resources. But of course, yes, we will be sending people to the
Especially if
hospital.
they can have those outpatient services on a continued basis.
Right.
Thank you so much, Kate. This is really exciting, and I think will be something we'll be really proud of. Initially when we heard about this at the Council of Governments, my first thought was that it was a little bit of a shame and an obvious challenge that this would be sort of away from the population centers. But I guess availability of land next to an emergency room pretty much keeps this like a pretty small radius of possibility. So with that in mind, I would just really appreciate updates on sort of analyses of transit and accessibility. I know that this is something that y'all are still solving for, and I know that the 420, I think, runs up that way. And so I think, the existing transit service may well hold the need, considering, law enforcement and health and other ways people reach this. But it strikes me that one of the things this will really need to succeed will be an access plan that makes sense. And that's somewhere where our dollars and cents go toward assisting. So I think this board would be really interested in just keeping abreast of what you learn as you look at how to approach that. And otherwise, I just really appreciate your efforts.
Yeah, I appreciate those comments, and I think that is something that our county deputy manager is very aware of. And I think I mentioned at the Assembly of Governments, I mean, the hope is that our mobile crisis team will be embedded in this facility, and that is starting in Chapel Hill as a pilot, but by the time this opens will be countywide. The other reason, besides the hospital and the fact that we wouldn't have property around Chapel Hill near the emergency room that would be easy to purchase, is that the magistrates also, for IVC commitments, the magistrates play a really integral role making those determinations, and they are based in Hillsborough too, and it is right off the highway, and it is a pretty straight shot for law enforcement to bring folks to. But I think you're absolutely right that we need to make sure that, because we want people to use this as a resource too before a crisis happens, and so that they're able to get there, with ease during the day, not just being transported back and forth from mobile crisis. So, yes.
Just to add on when you mentioned transportation, and Kate answered that, but I do want to make the point too that for EMS and law enforcement arriving at the facility, we anticipate about a 5-minute transfer from time of arrival till they're in the hands of a clinical person at the facility. And that's sort of worth the 15-minute drive to get up there. So that'll be enormously effective for those groups.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Okay. So I had a couple of questions. So, and just realizing that the facility is owned by Orange County, and like inspection wise, like maintaining quality of care and protocols and things of that nature, all of that is tasked through Orange County. Is there any state involvement? Like, I would presume that the facility would periodically go through some type of inspection, and was just wondering about that.
Yeah, and there will be a provider, a contracted provider who will be licensed, and of course these facilities will have to be licensed, so they will be subject
go
to
through
state
all the
oversight.
same as others. Okay. And I thought I saw something on here. I might be reading it incorrectly about walk-in services for the general public, and that's just walk-in for behavioral health emergencies. That's what you mean? Or walk-in?
Both.
Yeah, because I was
Both.
like walk-in
Yeah,
for the
so
general public.
walk-in
So
for
like,
the-
what does that include?
If I have a family member in another, in another part of town that I am worried about and want to see about some resources, there'll be a resource center there staffed so that people can come in and learn about different behavioral health resources in the community, even, if they are not the person that's involved, or if they are, but are just sort of wanting some more resources but aren't in crisis. So yes, that will be available as a walk-in facility to anybody in our community or outside the community for that matter.
Okay. And last thing was the formerly incarcerated transitions program. Can can you speak a little bit about, is that something that's currently
It is.
in place?
It is. So that there is the formerly incarcerated transitions program was developed at UNC by Dr. Evan Ashkin, who some of you may have seen before present, and he is a wonderful advocate in our community for folks who are formerly incarcerated, and he created a model here that was based in San Francisco of using people with lived experience of incarceration as community health workers to support people immediately coming out of incarceration when they're most vulnerable for overdose, for chronic medical conditions, and who probably are not connected to medical resources. So we have 2 community health workers. Tommy Green is one, and they're hiring another individual, and they literally work with people coming out of incarceration to get them connected to medical care. And in fact, the main clinic that they use is right here in Carrboro, Piedmont Health Services. And so they work out of, they connect people who are out of custody to that as a care provider, but they will also be working with people who may end up in our crisis diversion facility, either bringing them there or, connecting them as part of their discharge plan, because they can work with people up to a year after their incarceration to support their medical needs, which includes behavioral health. It's a wonderful program.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like it too, because it's, it's difficult, when you have family members and friends and just trying to navigate all that. This is a game changer right here. And so, just looking forward to it opening, and providing these invaluable services to the community. Great presentation. Thank you. I don't think anybody else has any more questions. Everybody good? Thank you so much.
Thank you all very much. We will keep you updated, and I'll bring back the transportation.
All right.
Best of luck.
Thank you. Ready to roll?
The next item is a memorandum of agreement on the Cogen Rail Line project. This item is to formalize the partnership on the Cogen Rail Line project, and we have representatives from Central Pines as well as UNC's Institute for the Environment here to represent.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Town Manager Parker. Senator Meyer, come on up. Hello.
Got some heavy hitters in the room today.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Council. Thank you, Town Manager Parker. That was an amazing agenda you had tonight. Like, what an incredible set of things to be here for. And I am happy that normally when I talk with the Town Council here, I am bringing you bad news from Raleigh, but today I'm bringing you good news to think about the future. As you likely know, we've had an informal working group meeting for almost a year now, talking about what's possible when the university makes its energy transition away from coal and burnable fuels, and we don't require the use of the rail line for the transportation of burnable fuels anymore. And Mike Peeler is here from the university to talk about that energy transition, briefly answer your questions on it. And then Elena Keegan is here from Central Pines to talk about what do we envision, how do we go forward in a partnership between the university, Southern Environmental Law Center, who have agreed to pay for the fee for, those 2 entities have agreed to pay for the fee for Central Pines to help us in applying for grant funding to do a full community study, including all of the research and data work that goes in, but also talking to members of the community of what would be possible and desirable to do along the rail line once it was able to be converted into a rails to trails type greenway. And the vision that I think that we have discussed in our group so far, that I think we're ready now for the public to start thinking about and talking about, is one that is, once that is a pedestrian and bike pathway and there's not the need to have the land use planning that you have to have around a rail line, the contiguous plots of land to the university open up possibilities for the university to have new land development, that there would be no other larger plots of land that close to main campus. Downtown Carrboro has the capability to have a different type of economic development opportunity along those rail line properties. As you head through Carrboro and up towards Chapel Hill High, Smith, and Sewell, all of a sudden neighborhoods that have never been able to have their children walk to those schools would be able to have kids walk to school. You run the rail line runs next to the airport. It runs through Carolina North. It runs adjacent to the Green Tract. It runs up through the Chapel Hill Industrial Corridor, all with large plots of land that can be developed for housing, for economic development. And then it continues to go up until it connects to through Blackwood Station, where there's another small economic development opportunity, and then up through the county, past a couple of tracts of Duke Forest, until it ends at the Norfolk Southern connection that goes between Durham and Burlington. But it would be such an amazing cultural amenity to have that as a recreational facility, as well as all of the opportunities that open up along it. This is some years off, maybe 10 years, maybe more. It would be amazing if it was sooner. But what we're asking for tonight is for the town of Carrboro to join in this memorandum of agreement that we would set up with the town of Chapel Hill, Orange County, UNC, and Southern Environmental Law Center, where there's a collaborative agreement to begin the working process on this, that Central Pines would coordinate the opportunity to pursue some grant funding to go beyond just what do we imagine, but put some data behind it. And so I'm going to turn the microphone over to Elena first, who will talk to you about the Central Pines role, and then when she's done, Mike will talk to you about the university and the energy transition. We'll be happy to take your questions.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Elena Keegan. I'm the Local Government Services Director for Central Pines. And I do have one slide just to make sure everyone feels comfortable with who Central Pines is. I know we have one member of your council who's on our board, but you may not have had the chance to interact with us in the past. We're your regional council. We serve 7 counties, including Orange County. And we have the opportunity to be representing both Carrboro, Chapel Hill, Hillsborough, and Orange County in our organization. So your entire county is represented. And we really see ourselves as an extension of your local government. And that's why this project really felt like a perfect opportunity to be capacity builders for you all. This is a project that's important to your community, but it's also maybe a little bit farther off in the horizon. And it's hard to put local staff to focus on that when there's so many other pressing things. And so we were really pleased to be, things look a little funky, so I'll just explain what's on the slide. No, it's fine. You're completely fine. We were pleased to be asked both by the Senator, UNC, and Southern Environmental Law Center to join the informal working group and discuss the potential of providing sort of the staff support for this initiative. And really help with the visioning and the seeking of grants to support that vision. And so we officially have moved forward with contracts. Southern Environmental Law Center and UNC are splitting the cost of our staff time on this initiative. And we will be helping both with the identification of grants, the writing of grants, and also the facilitation of a formal working group that involves hopefully a member of your board as well as the other local governments and key stakeholders. Senator touched on this a little bit. I just wanted to share, I'm sure you're all familiar with the rail line in your community, but there's obviously immense potential. So if you can sort of see on this line, the orange is the actual rail line, and you can see downtown Carrboro. These are the different current uses of land. So obviously there's some huge elements of protected green space, but in Carrboro specifically, a lot of, I think it's actually called town center is what that dark maroon color is identified as, but a lot of mixed use opportunities in downtown that are directly along the rail line right now. The other thing that we've been really diving into the data on this because it's important for us to know as we're looking for grants where you might have a good business case. And this one may not surprise you in terms of driving around in congestion, but there's a big business case to be made for increasing active transportation in the community and getting folks off of the roadways. To explain these 3 maps, the farthest right is 2016 congestion, and blue is not a lot of congestion, yellow and orange is some, and red is a lot. And you can see as you go farther left, the increase in congestion, especially along the west side of the community, which is almost directly parallel to the rail line. So that's going to be increased congestion by 2050, even if we adopt transportation plans that are in place. So congestion is coming. How can we get folks off of the roadway? This would be a great sort of north-south opportunity for the community. So I'm happy to just talk about your local involvement. One of the things that we're asking of you is obviously to review this memorandum of agreement and adopt it however is appropriate for your community, whether it's by council or by staff manager approval. We're also asking for you to appoint a council member to this formal facilitated group, which will help us both as we work through grant applications, but also just talk through the processes around vision and community engagement on this project. And then to just have continued coordination as needed with our team on grant applications. There may be times where there's discussion on match or data or whatever else might emerge. That's not necessarily the case for all of the grants, but just so that someone's at the table to represent your community on those conversations. And I think that's all I've got, so I can turn it over to Mike.
Thank you. Thank you all, and we are grateful for the Senator's leadership in this area, and I'm excited to be with you tonight. I think the things he spoke about as the end point and the end goals are not necessarily a short period of time away, but there's so much else, I think, in the interim that we'll be able to accomplish, as well as working towards this vision for the rail line. So I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer at UNC. If you run into questions around sustainability, I encourage you to reach out. Sustainable.unc.edu's got everything I'm showing you tonight. We're quite transparent and try and be very direct in describing the challenges and the progress that we're making. That's been a very fun part of this project for me, is having this conversation with groups of people with very different perspectives, very similar goals for the most part, but having difficult conversations about challenges that we face, but honest conversations about progress that we've made. And I think that's an important beginning to all of the things that we're doing. I think it underpins our ability to compete well for money, whether it be for the end product, something using the rail line, or for the generational amount of money available right now for climate action. So this is a figure we put together just to lay out how the university powers itself. So this goes beyond the cogeneration plant, which is the core figure that we've been thinking about in this group. If you start in the middle, the red and the white are electricity and steam. So I think probably most of you know that the university has a district energy system and relies a huge amount on the generation of steam. And that's the reason that we have the cogeneration plant and the Manning steam plant. The steam tunnels go throughout campus. It is a significant infrastructure. It is not perfect, but it's actually quite efficient and quite effective. So half of the power that we need generates steam. The other half is generating electricity. And a little bit of that comes from the cogeneration plant. Most of that comes from Duke Energy. And I didn't mention when I started that this is actually both the hospital, so UNC Health, and the university. If you go to the next ring out, you see how much of our total power is coming from Duke Energy versus from cogeneration. So more than half is being generated by the cogeneration plant. So this piece of infrastructure is critical to one of the top 5 hospitals in terms of size in the state, the $1.36 billion research enterprise. It is supporting a lot of things that are very positive for the university and very positive for the communities around it. But if you go outside to the fuel sources, that's where the less than perfect comes in, where coal is very heavily discussed, not something that anybody at the university wishes were still among the fuel mix, but it is, and it is something that I can tell you we've made more progress in the last 3 years reducing coal than we did in the decade prior. So there is concerted effort being made and successes being delivered. However, we're not there yet. You can see that coal is a significant part of the total fuel mix. Because the fuel mix includes both Duke and the fuels that the university uses, there's some nuclear that's in the Duke grid. The other is renewables. and then natural gas you see in the yellow. So this is, I think, an important level set for how are we, what are we powering and how are we powering it at this point. So when we talk about the energy transition, what we're talking about is getting that outer ring to a place where it feels more modern. So obviously eliminating coal is a stated goal, primary goal of the university. Exactly how that's done, we're trying to figure out. So our energy transition has, at this point, a near term, which is move away from coal, and then a medium term, which is optimize the fuel mix to minimize emissions, and then the longer term, which is something where you're changing infrastructure and hopefully technology is catching up, whether it be hydrogen, whether it be some way to make renewables work for the whole of campus, or some other source. So those are that the timing of those transitions don't align perfectly, I think, with the aspirations around the railway, but I think a lot of those goals do overlap, and I think that's where we have our opportunities. And I don't think anybody's said it yet, and I think it's valuable to know about the rail line, what is its alternative value? So as decisions are made about powering the university, knowing the what if we could, knowing that the dollar value, knowing the value to the community, I think is a critically important piece. So I'll just end with our emissions inventory. I heard you talk about Carrboro's. I think y'all got us by 2 years, maybe 2005 you started. But 2007 is when we first began this emission inventory. It's got the yellow on the bottom is stationary combustion. That's primarily cogeneration. The pink is purchased electricity. Green is air travel by faculty, students, and staff. So as a global public university, we need to travel. And then finally, we have commuting in the sort of vivid blue and other on the top. So these bars change as the university function changes. You can see the effect of the pandemic in 2020, where everything went down significantly. The combustion number did not go down as much as we want, as much as we would have guessed, not as much as we want. Any guesses why? It's because the hospital actually needed more steam rather than less. So this is a great set of data that allows us to understand a lot about how we work and also allows us to gauge all the metrics that we track to follow our successes and to track our future challenges. So we've decreased emissions by 36% since 2007, which is going to be in line with the goals, the executive order goals, EO80 in particular. We've decreased CO2 emissions significantly despite growing. So there is some good news. However, we recognize challenges remain, and we're very clear that first priority is to move away from coal. Second priority is to tune our fuel mix to minimize emissions. And then beyond that, as technology advances and as we get a little bit more time to understand these things, hopefully look for a significant transition sometime in the distance. Our climate action plan came out in 2020. Our goal is 2040 carbon neutrality. I encourage you to look that up, and please reach out if you have any questions. And I'll stop there.
All right. Thank you so much, Senator Meyer, Elena, and Mike for the presentation. Council members, are there questions? I see Danny, Randy, and Eliezer. Council members.
So I guess first I'd want to express my enthusiasm for this. I think it's great, and I think it's good. Obviously, we've all heard talk about this project, and it's really exciting to kind of be able to bring some partners into looking at it. I think one of the things that really appeals to me personally is the opportunity to have a big sort of backbone connective tissue for the bike ped stuff that we're really doing in Carrboro. Obviously, with the work that we're putting into our Greenway network here and making sure that's all connected, having sort of a load-bearing cataract of that network enhances the investment for us on Bowling Creek Greenway, Jones Creek Greenway, the Morgan Creek Greenway. It really expands the opportunity to treat this as a bike ped destination and economic network. So it's just wonderful. With that in mind, I guess a question that I have on the formal action we need to take is do we move this agreement? Is that I would like to nominate Jason Merrill to be our representative, but I don't know the right order to do that in.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Now. So I have attended, I think, one meeting. I know there's a meeting on Friday. And there are a couple of council members that are interested in serving with the group. And so I'm unclear as to how to handle that. I've certainly heard from both. So that's kind of where I am. I mean, we can't send both forward. And I guess my question is, do you need that tonight or?
We don't need that tonight.
Okay.
When do we need that?
We want to get them, starting
it
to
would
come
be-
to the meetings, to have a meeting on Friday.
Correct, because we are moving. So there's some grant opportunities we're already talking about. We want someone to be there as soon as possible, just to have representation. But it does not need to be this evening unless.
And it's possible to send more than one.
Thank you for that, council members. What is your pleasure? So I did hear from Council Member Haven O'Donnell, and then also there is Council Merrill, who is also interested. And I think I saw Councilmember Posada's hand, and then Frey.
Believe.
Or was
you
it?
had Called
I
Randy
was-
first, then yeah.
Did I? I think you were.
I had some questions.
I have questions.
But not related to this, what we're talking about right now. We're just trying to determine who.
Yeah, I definitely feel qualified to attend.
Thank you.
And I need to point to why, but yeah.
Yeah, you did share that with me. Thank you.
Sorry, just a point of clarification, Madam Mayor.
Mhm.
Do we need to adopt the MOU before we get into that conversation?
I mean, we don't have to do that tonight at
Okay,
all.
okay.
I mean, I think the MOA is the thing that is squarely on the table tonight, if that's your question.
That was my question. Yes,
Mhm.
that was my question.
Go ahead, Councilmember Frey.
Madam Mayor, related to that, I am also very enthusiastic about this project. And if you will accept it, I would like to move that we acknowledge and accept the MOA.
Yes, ma'am.
I'll second that.
We have a motion to acknowledge and receive the MOA. And we also have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries to accept the MOA. And I think the rest can be worked out. It depends on what the council's pleasure is. We can do it tonight, or certainly we could just hash it out. Not sure if it has to be done publicly. It's absolutely up to y'all.
When's the next meeting? Friday?
It's Friday. And we will.
Meeting Friday, we've not scheduled the next meeting. After that, it'll
Mhm.
probably be a month out or so.
Yeah, because it's generally once a month, right, on a Friday. Is it going to stay on a Friday afternoon? Okay. Councilmember Haven O'Donnell.
Yeah, actually, I had some questions that I wanted
You
to
go
ask.
right ahead. Go ahead.
So one of the things that, can you go to the map? Because I think it's really important, and we tease this out. What is the relationship between
map?
this plan and the conversation around the Chapel Hill Transit bus the north-south transit?
That's a great question. We have not really had conversations with their transit plans, but we are talking with them about their RAISE grant, which they just received, that's looking at their greenway system. And we also will have Durham Chapel Hill MPO at the table. So they should be able to also help with transit conversations. But we can definitely make sure we make a concerted effort to talk with transit about the BRT.
Because essentially, the Martin Luther King Boulevard, it aligns beautifully, with the rail line. And so an early conversation of how they compare.
Yeah, I think it would only be an added benefit rather than anything else.
Yeah, precisely. The second question I had is in terms of, so potentially going north, what's the conversation with Hillsborough in terms of making that a real viable destination node?
So I don't know if you want to answer that.
You can start. Go ahead.
At this point, Hillsborough has not been at the table just because the focus has really been on understanding the value in Carrboro and Chapel Hill along the rail line, just because of the economic opportunity that would exist in your tracks. But that, they're always welcome to be at the table. They just have not necessarily.
So I have history before
Okay,
Elena was
there
at the
we go.
table, which was Hillsborough was at the table initially, and then they withdrew from the conversation because this rail line, the UNC rail line, does not connect to Hillsborough. It actually connects to the Norfolk Southern line closer to Durham than it does to Hillsborough. It doesn't go through Hillsborough proper, given Hillsborough's limited time, resources, et cetera, as all towns have to deal with. They chose to not participate. They are supportive of it, but it won't have a real direct impact.
But then it does fall in the Orange County Eastern End EDD.
That's right.
So is that a conversation with Orange County or?
Yes, and Orange County is certainly at the table. We're going to be discussing this at their legislative breakfast this week and maybe again afterwards. The EDD is really along that Norfolk Southern rail line, and for the purposes of having a multimodal, pedestrian-friendly rail line, there's going to have to be some way to close this off before it gets close to that. And so that is a piece of what the study will have to look at. And in fact, at Friday's meeting, we're going to have folks there from the Triangle Trails program. And that's one of the questions I think we're going to ask them is like, how do you end the pedestrian part before it gets close to those very high volume, fast moving train tracks for safety?
Right.
But I can almost guarantee from having gone there that we will not have a pedestrian ending that is in that economic development corridor because you're going to have to stop before you get to the rail line there.
Got it. Okay. And there was one other question I had. And I guess this goes to Mike. Regarding the metric tons of CO2, do you have data on the particulate matter that gets out into the community? We have 4 EJ neighborhoods contiguous to the cogen plant. And so is there a data being collected on the amount of particulate matter over time that has been released and how much would be released between now and a potential closure?
So there are data being gathered routinely at the air quality monitoring sites. We've done preliminary analyses looking to see if there is any correlation between times when the cogen plant might be more active and others. And I can tell you just generally, first off, this analysis is ongoing, so everything I'm telling you is preliminary, but there does not appear to be a local problem. There appears to be a regional change, when we'll see it throughout the entire region as we go from, say, pretty good to maybe moderate. But there's not evidence yet of a local problem. There have been a couple of projects done by undergraduates at Carolina, capstone classes, using targeted air sampling. Similar thing, they were not able to identify specific source-related stuff coming from cogeneration. So at this point, the data don't show it.
You're welcome, dear. Councilmember Posada.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So yeah, I just have a couple of questions. I'm also excited about this project. I know that this is something that many folks in community have been looking towards. And kind of on that note, I know that when folks hear about this, there may be an unrealistic expectation that this is right around the corner. So I want to be very clear that is there some kind of realistic timeline that I'm not asking for anything specific, but something more that we can say, this is not in 2 years, this is not, there's a process. I know that you've mentioned it, but I want to make sure that I have a response for folks when I know that I'm going to get the comment of like, this is coming, and I want to be able to say, we're working on it, but,
I will say that I never say any timeline shorter than 10 years. And we don't even know if 10 years is the right number.
Yeah.
Because our friends at the university have to be the first mover, right? They have to make the energy transition first, and they don't have a timeline for that. And I'm not going to ask them to make a commitment to that timeline in front of you tonight. But I think that is a really important thing to make clear in our communications with the public is there is an order of operations here. You can't shut down the rail line until they're made the energy transition. And you can't do the rail line development until you shut down the rail line. So we got to go through the steps.
And I appreciate that. I just want to make sure that that's clear and on the record. I was looking through the MOU, and I know that we've agreed to it. I'm excited for that. And I know that there's other municipalities working in this working group. Has any other municipality officially adopted this MOA at the moment, or just us?
Not yet. It would be great. It's great for Carrboro to take the first vote because you're going to probably have the most direct impact on this. Fantastic.
Yeah, and on that, you can always count on Carrboro to lead. Let's just be real. Kind of on that train of thought, right? And knowing that I imagine, is going to be presented to the other municipalities and other partners. How many representatives? I know that the MOU says one council member. Like, how many currently exist in this working group? Is it traditionally 1, 2? Just to help me guide my thoughts.
The email invitation, the calendar invite to the working group has 46 people on it.
Okay.
It includes folks from the local government units. It includes multiple folks from the university. It has multiple folks from Southern Environmental Law Center. It has people from the Jackson Center. It has people from No Coal UNC, numerous other community organizations. And so we need the MOA in order to pursue the grant funding and be able to have some agreement that says the official bodies are working on this together. The working group, what we would like to do is after we have the MOA completed and we have this official organizing group, we would like to keep the working group to be a larger body that maintains a strong community presence, because this would be such a large change and does impact communities that we want to make sure have a voice at the table, that we don't ever want the process to be one where people feel like, oh, it's this very small number of people deciding this huge number of things. The working group has been insistent that when we do get to the point of having a consultant who goes into the study process, that part of that study process has to be direct community engagement, talking to people in the neighborhoods that will be impacted by this all the way through, all the way up to the Norfolk Southern line, talking to folks all along the way about what could happen and what they'd want to have happen.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. That just helps me guide, as we're looking at this question, whether we do 1 or we do 2. I just wanted to make sure that as we're going through this, we're following, whatever guidelines or, what's best for the project. Thank you for your leadership in this, Senator. Thank you for your many years of work on this, and thank you both of you for the presentation. I'm excited for this to continue to move forward. I know it's long down the road, but we can start moving now. So thank you.
Councilmember Frey. Thank you
so much. The council received an email from a Big Train fan, a resident, that I thought was worth asking about because I didn't know the answer and realized that staff likely wouldn't know this either. I had a question about, given that DOT rail is expanding in all directions and thinking about a lot of new corridors, and given that we are so close to the main Amtrak line for the East Coast, but not actually directly connected to it, has there been any consideration by the working group given to a rails to rails and trails approach, something like a passenger rail shuttle? Or is this, can you let me know what the context is of the Norfolk Southern rail line and how that fits in?
So first, my understanding is that the North Carolina Railroad Corporation that oversees our state railroads has some publicly available maps of what do they envision the future of North Carolina's rail usage to look like, including some really ambitious maps where you might have amazing commuter rail opportunities in North Carolina. But this line is not included in any of that future planning. I think I've heard that question from at least one other person about, well, what if you could put in a very small rail line to use this? There's one really concrete reason why that would be difficult, which is it doesn't connect to Hillsborough. It doesn't connect to someplace where there would be another station. So if you'd have to build a station to stop at the top of this line, which doesn't seem likely given where the Amtrak stations are in Durham and Burlington and the likelihood of putting one in at Hillsborough. And then I think you have even if you did that, then you have the trade-off of the expense of operating a mini rail line from Highway 70 down through Carrboro to UNC, and the benefit that you would get out of the expense of it compared to the benefit of it, compared to the benefit of turning this into a non-rail corridor, including the difference that you can have in development opportunities when it's not a rail corridor. Because the need to have safe space apart from the rail corridor is a huge impediment on development and use of the space that would be available around the corridor. Could we study that when we go to the grant process? Could we study that? Could we ask for that to be studied as one alternative? Absolutely. I think the experts that we've talked to so far have said that's probably not going to make sense in this instance.
Thank you for that context. I appreciate it. One other question I had, you talked about needing to exit the bike ped portion of the trail before actually getting to sort of the next major node. Can you tell me anything, or is this also a matter for sort of a future study about connecting into bike ped infrastructure up there so that it doesn't dead end?
I think it's really a matter for study. There are multiple spots along that northern section of the rail line where it crosses over county roads. There's a couple of them that it crosses over trestles where you might actually end it there because there's a whole, safety issues around a trestle in general, and what do you do with that? But I think one of the things that we would want the study to look at is what is that end node, and is there a way that you would end it that connects to other bike ped possibilities? Is there a way that you end it at a place that has parking availability for people who want to use it as a destination to start a bike ped journey? All of those are questions that are going to have to be encountered in the study. It's easy to see kind of where those spots would be. It's not as easy to figure out what would be the right way to do it.
Thank you very much.
I had one more question. Because I was remembering back, Mayor Lavelle and a couple of the council members at the time, we had a discussion about looking into the right of first refusal with Norfolk Southern. In fact, I believe Mayor Lavelle had talked to folks at Norfolk Southern in terms of, just laying that out ahead of time. Would you recommend that, or what's the game plan?
So the rail line is owned by a singular management entity called the University Railroad Corporation. I think that's the name of it. University Railroad Corporation has 3 shareholders. One is the North Carolina Railroad Corporation, one is Norfolk Railway, and one is Southern Railways. So it was incorporated before Norfolk and Southern merged. And in North Carolina, it's the North Carolina Railroad Corporation that really manages most of our railways, leasing most of them to Norfolk Southern for usage. And we do have a meeting coming up with the director and a board member of the Railroad Corporation to begin conversations about what role they would need to play in this. And again, they had the same first question that everybody does of how soon are we talking about, and we're talking about at least 10 years out, but they plan ahead as well. So that's a conversation that will happen at one of our upcoming meetings, and given what we've heard tonight about the interest of so many people on the council to be involved in these conversations, if that's we can make sure you're all on the invitation list if you want. And if you see that on the agenda is that, this is the time where we're going to talk with the folks from the Railroad Corporation about that, then you would be welcome to come on and have that conversation.
For the foreseeable future, I will be attending the meetings. That's the first thing. And the second question is, who are the equity partners that we're talking about that are already at the table, which is, it's really important because of the communities that we know have been impacted for decades, by the use of coal, particularly communities of color. And so who are the equity partners that are already at the table working on this or coming, however it is?
The Jackson Center has been one. No Coal UNC is the organization that has done the most organizing of the neighborhoods around the cogen plant and the door-to-door work of talking to folks. And they work through the Sierra Club. No, they have an organizer that's been coming. I'm not sure that she's... Well, I was going to add them too. So they work through an organizer that's a partnership. And then the other equity partner is the North Carolina Council of Churches, the Interfaith Power and Light arm of the North Carolina Council of Churches. And they have made a commitment, which hasn't come yet, but to be a partner in community outreach work and equity-focused work. They do currently have an MSW intern from UNC who is working on the project on their behalf. One of the struggles that we've had, not surprisingly for those of us who do equity work in this community, is in those neighborhoods that are adjacent where No Coal UNC has been organizing, we have had folks from those neighborhoods who have come to our meetings. They have not been Black folks.
Right.
And so there's that extra step going of saying, we know you're talking to those folks. How do we get some of those neighbors to come and participate and be present? That's a challenge that we continue to try and work on.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Any more questions? All right. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
See you Friday.
Your support.
Appreciate the work.
Yep. Good work. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the final item is a special use permit A extension request. This is for Town Council to consider approving a request for an extension for a special use permit A for Viridia Architecturally Integrated Subdivision at 810 Old Fayetteville Road. Marty Roop, the town's Development Review Administrator, is here with a short presentation and to be available for any questions.
Yes, good evening, everyone. My presentation will be brief. Just some background. The special use permit was issued in April 2011. You may know it as Pine Grove Mobile Home Park. 39 homes are there now and would be replaced with 39 new single-family homes. Council has extended it 4 times in the past several years, with the current expiration date being about a month from now, April 26, 2024. Land Use Ordinance Section 15-62 contains the findings you as a council had to make in order to extend. We have concluded in review with the applicant that they do qualify if you so choose. You're not obligated to extend, but you may choose to extend the permit again. And David Bell, the property owner, did submit a letter that was included in your attachments. And the late breaking news that I discovered after I wrote this, he was unable to attend tonight, as it turns out. So I did correspond with him and said that if you guys do have questions and want to discuss the project with him, that perhaps, this doesn't expire until April 26th, and he's in what I'll call good standing in as much as we have an application. So we can defer this to a later date if you do want to have some correspondence directly with Mr. Bell.
All right.
With that, I had...
Oh, you had...
I just if you want to see it.
Yes.
I know there are some new council members that weren't here in 2011, so if you wanted to just, as a reference, I've included the site plan. And you can see it more or less mirrors what's there now, just with new stick-built homes instead of the mobile homes. And then we have prepared a resolution for council if you want to adopt it tonight. Otherwise, I'm happy to answer any questions, and unfortunately, Mr. Bell couldn't be here tonight.
Okay. And it expires on April 26th.
April 26th,
All
yes.
right. Thank you, Marty. Any questions? Mayor Pro Tem now.
Yeah, I mean, my primary concern here is for the residents, for the possibility of their non-displacement, which I know from the letter that Mr. Bell is working toward as well. Is it your understanding that this extension has any bearing on that question?
Well, in as much as there is a currently active permit for this property, it requires, and yeah, let me be as clear as I can be with this without speaking for Mr. Bell. It requires that 35 of the 39 homes be offered at an initial price point of $300,000 or less. When this was approved in 2011, that was the agreement council at the time made with the developer at the time, as a way to do what at the time would have been considered kind of middle range housing, not true price point controlled, but an initial $300,000 maximum price for 35 of 39. That is what we have as of now. As Mr. Bell has indicated, and Anne Marie, Anne Marie's not here, but I know, they have ongoing correspondence as well. He has clearly indicated for a number of years now that his desire is to do it with a nonprofit and make it truly affordable, all of the units. But there's nothing binding on Mr. Bell as of now, except for that price point for 35 of 39.
Thank you. And I mean, and so that price point remains fixed.
Yes, it is.
$300,000 is not a market consideration.
That's right. I reviewed the permit again today, anticipating that there might be some discussion about that, so that it is a fixed price point, doesn't fluctuate with inflation or anything.
Councilmember Haven O'Donnell.
So Viridia's back again.
Yes.
It's like, man. So two questions, and I was thinking along the same lines as Danny was in terms of displacement. Do we know that whether or not these mobile units right now are staying affordable? I mean, I know people who lived there and had to leave because prices went up. So, do we have any sense of whether they're being edged out incrementally is, I guess, what I'm getting to.
I can't personally speak to that. Anne Marie may be better suited than me to speak to that, but probably best if you really want to get into the details to perhaps bring it back when Mr. Bell can be here and talk directly to that. I don't know what he's charging for rent, frankly.
Yeah, or if we could find out from Anne Marie, that'd be great.
Yeah.
So that's the first part of my question. The second has to do with our interest in density has changed since 2011. How does that impact, from the goals that we have now, how does that impact assessing this project?
I'll put the site plan back in front of us as a reference point. This is a fairly, I think it's fair to say, a fairly dense project for the amount of land. The only way, and this, I skipped over this, but can back up a step here. The only way that 39 units was, that was originally handled through a lawsuit that the property owner back in the 70s or early 80s basically took Carrboro to court, and it was established that they could keep 39 mobile homes on here because it far exceeded the density that was allowed at the time.
At the time, yeah.
So this project was originally done in 2011 by way of a rezoning to R2, which got the density up high enough where they could have 39 by way of the rezoning and the permit. So I'll probably should just stop there, and just as a reference point, you can tell visually it's a pretty dense project in as much
lines.
as, yes, yeah. But it could be multifamily or something, and the density could potentially be increased. Any number of things are possible.
Councilmember Merrill.
I was just curious, how does this plan with parking requirements align with the kind of updated kind of parking minimums to maximums? Like, does this now exceed Our new maximum?
It definitely exceeds, yes. That's an interesting question. If they came in tomorrow and said, we're ready to build this, according to the 2011 approval, we have held as a staff that whatever was approved by council by way of a set of plans that is binding. So that includes the price point I mentioned. So as of now, the plans we approved have, I think it's 68 parking spaces to serve the 39 units. But they could ask to modify the permit and by way of the new maximum standards, reduce that. But they do have a vested right as of now to provide 68, which probably exceeds 39. Well, no, that doesn't exceed our 2 per unit. So, yeah, that good enough answer? Yeah.
Thank you. Councilman Posada.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think similar to what's already been mentioned, I'm very concerned about the current residents and like what does this mean? So I would ask my colleagues to hold on any decision tonight until we can bring it back. Talk to Mr. Bell. And in the meantime, I would like to know what has happened there since 2011, right? Would want to get into some information of like how has rent been increasing dramatically? Has there been significant turnover? And I mean, turnover isn't always bad, and specifically when we're like talking about these, but like getting a little bit more of a fuller picture. Because knowing some of the folks that live there myself, and knowing that there's a big push a couple of years back before I joined the council around securing the mobile homes that we currently have for folks who can actually afford a giving, and it's a pretty for many folks who can find this affordable and it's enough space for their families and all, and there's a whole community that is built around these mobile homes. I'm very hesitant without having Mr. Bell help, making a decision. So, council, I would ask that we would postpone this item until we can. It is a motion, yes.
And I'll second that and say we also need to hear from Anne Marie.
Yes. So I would move to postpone this and get some reports from Anne Marie around affordability and what's going on.
As well as bring Mr. Bell.
As well as bring, yeah.
So, council members, you've heard the motion. There's also a second to bring this item back when we can have Mr. Bell here, as well as get affordability information from Anne Marie. Any other questions or anything? All in favor, please say aye.
Before you vote, sorry to interrupt. I just spoke with Town Manager Parker. May we suggest either the 9th or the 23rd in terms of calendar management?
Okay.
It's just so we can decide that now. Or leave it to our discretion for one of those dates, if that's fine.
Yeah, your discretion.
Your discretion.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Marty.
Thank you.
9th or the 23rd. All right, council members, that is the end of our agenda for this evening. Any matters by the board? Matters by council members? Councilmember Posada.
Just one, I wanted to inform the council that next week I will be traveling for. Oh, so what?
There's not a meeting next.
There's not a meeting next week?
Enjoy your trip.
There we go. Never mind. Just kidding. Just kidding. I have nothing. Just kidding.
Any other matters from anyone? Nope. All right, so I need a motion.
Closed session.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We're about to go into closed session.
Want to have a meeting?
Give it a few minutes.